We will call our meeting to order this evening. This is the November edition of the Caldwell Urban Renewal Agency regularly scheduled meeting. Would the secretary call the roll, please?
Commissioner Porter?
Here.
Commissioner Brooks?
Here.
Commissioner Warwick? Here. Commissioner Doty?
Here.
Commissioner Moore?
Here.
Commissioner Allgood?
Here.
Commissioner Cole?
Here. Again, we welcome Tom to our commission. It's good to have you here. Thank you for your service. Our first item of business tonight is a special presentation, and Stephen, are you going to kick that off and make some introductions? Thank you.
Absolutely. So, Chair, Commissioners, good evening, and I am pleased to present Mr. Will Jackson with Civic Serve to you all this evening. We, as staff in economic development and as individuals that are tied to the urban renewal process and success, we just felt like there was a clear need for a project management tool and, or a project manager in general for some of the projects that we have flowing through the urban renewal agency. And in our research and working with Will and his team, we found Civic Serve to be a complementary tool that we felt could be something to investigate further and wanted you guys to see how it could work firsthand. I felt like, hearing you all and hearing some of the requests that come forward from this commission, we just want to be responsive to that, and we felt like Civic Serve could be a good platform to investigate further. So without further ado, Will, I wanted to have you all speak, and I think he's joined by Ms. Robinson as well, and they'll talk a little bit about Civic Serve and how it could serve as a project management tool to help move urban renewal projects forward. Thank you.
Welcome.
Nice, everyone. Sorry. Can you guys hear and see my screen okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you all so much for allowing us to present in this meeting here this evening. As Stephen said, my name is Will Jackson, one of our AEs here at Civic Serve, and coming from the great state of Minnesota here. And I have my colleague Justine Robinson, who is our VP of Strategy and all things customer, and we're thrilled to be here tonight. I'll jump right into the presentation tonight, as I know we have some limited time. I want to go ahead and start by walking through the agenda. We'll jump into a couple of slides from there, and then we'll go ahead and stop and allot for some time for questions there at the end. So quickly walking through the agenda here, I want to give a brief introduction of who we are here at Civic Serve, take a couple of minutes to walk through a sample project, and then put out and kind of touch base on a couple of the overarching goals and things that we've talked about here thus far, and then go ahead and wrap up with some time for questions. So here at Civic Serve, we're an economic development platform that supports all aspects of economic development, including things like program and project management, business retention and expansion, CRM, incentives, and a lot more. We aim to support economic development through our public portal, where businesses, developers, and residents are able to come in, access information, apply for different programs, interact with the community, the city, and other information as you see fit that you would like to be transparently and publicly available to them. We also have on the back end where our cities are managing all of these programs, all of these projects, all of these different finances, and do a lot of reporting. And we kind of bring that together in a unique, all-encompassing economic development platform. One thing that I did want to note here is that our platform and everything we do is highly customizable and configurable. So for today's walkthrough, we're going to be using our generic demo site. But as our customers come on board, we take all of their processes, all of their current projects, their programs, context, and configure them so that we hand back over a Civic Serve instance that looks, walks, talks, and feels like Caldwell economic development. Additionally, we don't charge per person, we don't charge per license. So while this platform is meant to serve the day-to-day needs of the economic development and urban renewal projects, it will also allow anyone within the city to work on these projects and access these information to understand the status of these individual projects. For the purpose of today, though, we're going to focus mostly on the project management aspect of the platform. Really what I wanted to focus on is an overarching understanding of what the status of a particular project is, what work has been done so far on a project, where the project sits here today, and where is the project going? What else needs to be done for this project? Over the next couple of minutes, we'll go ahead and dive into the current status of the project, what is the timeline, who is responsible for each step of the project, all relevant information pertaining to a particular project, from the compliance and the obligations within the agreement, and many other details. After looking at the individual project here, I'll briefly touch on a couple of the overarching reports, and then we'll wrap up. So diving in here today, the first screenshot and the first slide that we have is looking at our food hall project. Across the top, you're going to see a number of key characteristics and attributes from the project, from where this project is located, what's its approval status, what's the particular score, and how well does it align to the strategic initiatives of Caldwell, as well as a number of different financing options. What's the estimated cost? Are we providing any funding? What are eligible costs, and some of those other high-level metrics. Below that, you'll see a timeline of the project. Each one of those individual steps is going to articulate an important piece and an important step in the project. They're going to have dates associated with it, and they're completely customizable. So if you want to use it in an instance like this, where you can see things like important steps like breaking ground, occupancy begins, payments are going out, or whether that's something that you want to use internally, where you can kind of denote key steps like a legal review, initial intake, board approval, and other key timeline events such as that. I'll move ahead here to the next slide, and I'm going to play a brief video here while we're talking through this, just to kind of show the customization and what some of these individual steps can actually have. So you'll see here, we're actually building out an individual step in the timeline. We're able to say who is responsible for this. Is it the governing body? Is it the city of Caldwell that's responsible for this process? Is it the business? Is it the developer? Is it the economic development department? Is it our legal team? Is it our board? So each one of these steps are going to be delineating who is responsible for. They're going to have tasks and reminders sent out that they are responsible for this part of the process and that they need to complete their section. You'll also be able to allow and notify different users. You'll be able to notify different departments, and all this is going to be tracked and monitored in an audit trail as well. Once again, you'll all be working towards that key end goal for a particular project, see who is responsible for steps along the way, and at any given point in real time be able to see where a particular project sits. I'll pause this here. I know it's probably hard to see on the screen, but I'll make sure to share this presentation afterwards if you guys would like to rewatch some of those. The next step of what we have here is looking at the in-depth project overview and information. So again, at any point in time, you'll be able to come inside and see all the information as it pertains to the project. Here in this middle section, you'll see some of those overall general details. What's the project intention, an overall description? Are there any public improvements? Are we offering any funding? All of those different components. Is the business, developer, or resident requesting any improvements of the city? Down here, we're going to see all of that in-depth information from who is the applicant, who's the business or developer, what are some of the financing details, the projections, are there any documents or declarations associated with it? And then across the top, we're going to have a number more key components of the project. Working left to right, we're going to be able to see those key compliant details. What compliance and obligations are the city responsible for? What compliance and obligation are those businesses and developers responsible for? We're also going to be able to see and denote all files associated with the project, whether that's the agreement, whether that's project proposal plans, contracting bids. All of that is going to be housed in one easy to collect and consume information. We're also going to see an audit trail, which a lot of our customers find really important for understanding the processes. Where in our particular process or project do we have a slowdown? Who is responsible? And kind of at all times really understanding where does the project sit. If we need to get it and keep it moving, who do we need to reach out to do so? You're also going to have an audit trail and a correspondence showing all the communication back and forth between the city, those businesses, and developers. And then, of course, if you have different tasks that you need to assign and different finances, all of those are going to be tracked and monitored within the project as well. The last component I wanted to show within an individual project is the compliance side of things. A lot of our customers really want to understand what are we responsible for, what is the business or developer responsible for, and how can we make sure that both parties are completing our obligations required. So what you'll see here is that we can denote all different types of agreements and compliance and obligations, whether that is the city promising to updo the landscape and plow the sidewalks in the parking lot, or whether those businesses promising X amount of jobs or X amount of growth created, or maybe they promise to add something to the community or some side of improvement. We'll be able to, again, denote who is responsible for these obligations. What is the status? Are we in compliance or out of compliance? Are there any clawbacks associated? If one of these parties does not complete these obligations, are we going to invoke some of those clawbacks? We'll also be able to track these on different frequencies. Maybe we just want to collect them once a year. Maybe we just have to collect it quarterly. And like I said, notifications, reminders, and forms are all going to be in this automatically. So we'll be able to see as things are trending in and out of compliance from a holistic point of view there as well. The last thing that I wanted to touch on, like I said, is some of those more overarching goals and objections. One of the things that I was talking about we receive in Ophelia is kind of some of the activity reports. So we'll be able to generate reports on kind of the ongoing of economic development and what they're doing. We can report on things like site visits, who we're interacting with, meetings that we've had, calls that we've had, projects that we've worked on, timelines, updates, and all things of that nature. You'll be able to go in and select different districts. You'll apply different filters. You can say all of these people that we spoke to in Q3. So a lot of different filter options there. A lot of those same reports are going to be able to apply for project and programs, meaning whether it's a program such as something as a TIF or a foreign trade zone, you'll be able to come in and see all projects associated with those, or whether it's a project saying these are the 6 projects that we worked on in Q4 of 2024. These are, how many jobs they've created. This is their compliance statute. And this is kind of just a real quick snapshot of what that dashboard looks like for all of our projects. And then the last thing that I wanted to touch on is transparency. A lot of our customers come to us so that they're able to be A, transparent internally within city functions, and B, transparent to the public. So when I say transparency, I mean a couple different things. Number one, those businesses, those developers and residents will be able to consume the information that you guys would like to have out there publicly. Number two, they're also going to have their own public portal that they can go in, log into, work on their projects, work on their agreements, and see precisely what's due, when it's due, and of course request anything of the city, and of course the city can request anything of them. All of that will be submitted, tracked, and audited in there as well. We actually just recently had one of our customers who was hosting their council meeting, and one of their businesses and developers went up and kind of spoke to the ease of use. They said it was really clear what needed to be done in the project. They were happy that they got reminders as they needed to submit things, and they were also really happy that they were able to transparently see where their project was headed, who was working on it, and what the timelines were associated with that. With that, I'll conclude the presentation. Happy to open it up to any questions. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Jackson. Questions?
I'm ready
Mr.
with a
Doty.
couple, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Doty?
So, being that it has a public portal, what are the risks to the city as far as IT goes if the public has access into our server system, or is it gonna be web-based, or how does that work? I'm sure that's come up somewhere
Can you guys hear me still?
before. I can't hear you. Can you hear me? Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you guys.
Did you hear my question?
I did not. I'm
Okay.
sorry. I just heard the hello.
That's fine, I'll start over. So I'm looking for the risk. So if it has a public portal, when that's accessed through, the city server, the risk for viruses and other hacking abilities, I'm sure you guys have approached this before. Is it web-based, or how are we preventing the public from, adding something to our system that shouldn't be added?
Yeah, great question. So we have 2 different options there. We can have a public portal, and it's all web-based, where we can produce a landing page for the city. And the other option is to host some of our links anywhere within your existing website. So, people aren't necessarily able to just add in anything. All the information that's put on the portal or the applicant or the program is controlled entirely by the city. And it's, like I said, it's web-based, and it can integrate within your existing website there as well. You can just kind of put those different components, those different applications, those different bits of information and links within some of those existing places on the city's website.
Follow up, Mr. Chair? And then on the email side of it, it keeps track of the emails back and forth, but an email sent outside of system would not be tracked. You'd have to move it over if you wanted it part of the auditing record, correct? Or does it grab
Yeah.
from?
Yeah, so we can integrate with the email system that you guys use. A lot of our customers like to integrate, and anything that comes out of your email can be dumped into CivicServe. If you would not like that option, we can do a drag and drop option where you guys can hand select the emails you would like to be included into the platform and simply drag them in. So we have multiple different options. It comes down to the preference of what you guys would like.
And then one more,
Sure.
unless I missed it. It's not by license, so what's the cost?
Yeah, so the price, and I'm happy to share the proposal with you guys, but the annual price that we have, again, for anyone that's wanting to use the platform, as well as implementation, configuration, setup, and training, is $22,500.
And it's endless users, as many as we want?
Yep, anyone within the city or within the Urban Renewal Agency, yes. And then you'll have unlimited, business, resident, development access to their portal.
And just one more, Mr. Chair, I'm gonna put Raylan on the spot and ask her, maybe she doesn't wanna answer this yet. Have you heard of this program, Raylyn, or what do you think about this program? Raylyn's our finance director.
Okay.
I don't want to create more work for her, if that makes sense.
I've not done the research on this program.
Okay.
I know Stephen was looking into it, but I had not done the research, so I can't comment on it.
Sounds good, but I would be willing to entertain her comments when she has those ready, Mr. Chair, and that's all the questions I have for
I
now.
think that's very appropriate. Thank you. Mr. Cole?
Yeah, you mentioned that the cost was $22,000. Is there an ongoing fee in addition to that?
I think I heard the question was, is it an ongoing fee, correct? Yes, I think I
Yes.
heard it yes there. Sorry, it's a little faint. Yes, it's an annually recurring subscription. We work on 12-month periods. Obviously, at the end of those 12 months, you guys would have the option to renew or not renew. And of course, all of the data is yours, right? So if there's a time in which our customers choose not to renew, we work with you to get all that data out and delivered back to you at all times of the subscription. Everything within the platform is yours.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Allgood?
Yeah, Will, as we all know, the data you get out is only as good as the data that goes in. So, in other customers that you have, who's doing all the infill of this data? Is this a group effort? Is there someone that's assigned to plug in all these boxes? How does that part work?
Yeah, that's a great question. So a lot of it comes down to the community. As you can imagine, we work in a lot of different states, and they all might answer that slightly differently. What I'll say is usually it's a combination of the staff as well as the business or developer, right? So a lot of that information, what we try to do is we try to automate as much of this data and information as possible, meaning as those businesses, as those developers, fill out different forms, different applications, as they supply you with different information, that's fed throughout the platform here as well. Our teams are requesting information directly from them, whether that's different forms, whether that is different pieces of information, and all that kind of gets automated into the system. And then to your point, absolutely some of this is going to be input by different city employees, and some of those ways along the way. I saw Justine come off mute if you wanted to add some there as well.
I just thought I might take a different angle on it and maybe talk about the implementation, which is what my team leads up. And as part of our Civic Serve offering, we provide a white glove implementation service. So my team, which is led by former economic development practitioners like myself, digest the information upon implementation and preload your businesses, programs, projects, parcel, assessment, GIS, and other key information to get your platform, your projects, and your staff up and running. We try to be as efficient as possible and really set your team up for success, allowing them to keep working and keep the eye on moving projects forward.
Follow up?
Mr. Allgood?
Can it be set up to ping particular people if there's something missing? There's an update due here and it's not here. Steven, you got to be putting something in. Is that available?
Absolutely. So each step along the way is going to have tasks and notifications set out. Let's say you're working with business ABC, they submit the wrong certificate, they need to go ahead and submit different documents or answer a question. They will ping those, they'll get a notification, and it will also show up as an incomplete, or lack of, compliance somewhere within the system. So yeah, notifications will be sent out, tasks will be sent out, and reminders, and Justine wanted to add something here as well.
Just that this also, in addition to reminders, provides great checks and balances. I recently had a customer in Illinois whose business uploaded a receipt with proof of expenses and tried to be able to expense Monster energy drinks to the city for reimbursement as part of their grant and TIF program. Obviously, that's not covered under the state statute as an eligible expense, so the economic development professional in that case was able to reject the receipt, provide commentary within the platform back to the developer, and everything was tracked on the audit trail so that the city did not end up paying or reimbursing for ineligible expenses.
The important thing to know also is with that audit trail, you'll be able to see where there's a hang up. So if you have a business or developer who is questioning why their project isn't moving along, but a particular step or something necessary is sitting within, you'll be able to point to the system and say, hey, you were pinged with this reminder. Currently the project, the certificate, the explanation is sitting with you. Please, go ahead and upload it so that we continue on with the project.
All right, thank you very much.
Mr. Moore?
Will, when you started out, you said apply for what? Who's applying? Somebody's applying for an RFP? Is it changing a process that we normally have? What are they applying for?
Yeah, so we have customers that will apply for all different sorts of things. We have customers that apply for maybe a different types of incentive. We have customers that apply for different types of properties, different types of commercial real estate, different certificates. There's a lot of different components. We have customers that will submit general inquiries. You know, do you have space for a retail lot? You know, we're looking at adding XYZ to the community. Is there availability for that? So some of those things are kind of endless and depends on the community. But if there's any types of applications or general inquiry forms that you guys have that you receive some of that information from, all that stuff that we can host.
Who on this side would answer those kind of questions? Would that come out of economic development? I mean, who follows up with that? Just curious how that workload's split.
Yeah, so you guys can set it up any way that you would like. When those forms or when those applications and questions come in, they can be delivered to an alias. If you have like a citywide alias in which those requests go to, and it's kind of a first come, first serve. If you would like it to be someone specific, such as Steven or Ophelia, all of that is customizable and something that we set up during implementation there. So you guys would choose kind of who that would be routed to and who the first line of defense for a response such as that would be.
So I know you said the $22,500 is an annual fee. Is that right? Is that?
Yes, that's
am I clear on
correct.
that? Okay, so if you have a project where you're being awarded a parcel, and then let's say you got $3 million in concessions in cash that goes along with that project, do those kind of things trigger that 22.5 to go up to 55.5 or 155? I mean, how does that number stay there, or what fluctuates that?
Yeah, I mean, that in terms of if you guys are running, you know, a project with $3 million versus a project at $1 million, if you're running 10 projects versus 5 projects, none of that's going to change the pricing there. You know, it's the pricing that we have is based off a number of things that's shown in the proposal. I'm happy to share that with you here, guys, afterwards if you'd like to review. But things in terms of number of projects, how much you submit into the program, how many contacts or emails you send, none of that is going to be reflective of the price. You know, it's not consumption based. It's not, you know, you use it to X amount. None of that is going to be reflective of the price in there.
Okay. So compliance and obligations, you spoke on that. And I guess that's probably a shared deal on both sides. What insurance, what do you guys carry to protect your side, our side? How does that break down? How does that work?
Just in terms of general, like company-wide insurance?
Well, on a project, malpractice, you know, we missed something, this thing's gonna go to litigation. How does that work with civil serve?
Go ahead, Justine, did you want to?
Yeah, I'll kind of refer back to one of the comments, I think it was one of your commissioners made early on. Good data in is good data out, bad data in is bad data out. So we will set everything up upon implementation, and then we'll ask your team to review the verification of the information and conduct those checks and balances. Ultimately, those responsibilities then lie on you to make sure that that information is correct and ongoing on an ongoing basis, as we do not get in thereafter and make changes to your data. We do carry general liability insurance and have a certificate of insurance on file for all of our customers, but the validity of the information, the ownership of your data is yours.
Okay, just so I understand this here, and I'm not trying to ask the same question twice, but the transparency to the public. So if I'm not on this committee and I want to look up what's going on Fifth and Blaine or Timbuktu, I can sign in and I can look at that myself and be privy to what's going on. Is that what you said?
So all within control, right? So we have different components where you can show things like activity reports. We have a map in which you can show the ongoing projects that you have in the community of Caldwell. But no, someone will not be able to log in and see all the intricate and the details and that confidential information. Again, what's put out on the public portal is completely up to you guys. It's at your discretion. If you would like nothing to be out there, then nothing has to be on there. But like I said, a really good example is a lot of our customers like to show and be prideful of the projects that they're currently working on. So we have an activity map where it can show all the different projects going on over town, and you guys can dictate what type of information that you would like in there. But from kind of a detail or a confidential perspective, no, someone off the street, someone in the general public can't log in and see what's going on with the particular project unless it's theirs and it's the project they're working on. But they won't just be able to come in and access the whole system.
Okay. So when do we get to see a work history of things, projects that you've completed or you guys are currently working on? How do we get to see how you guys work? Testimonials, anything like that from current or past customers?
Happy to set up a demo if you guys would like. I know that Steven and Affiliate have had a number of demos, and if you guys would like some greater insight and to sit down and walk through, I would be more than happy to set up at any of that at any time that you guys would like. And then in terms of testimonials, and happy to share some of those there as well. I'd be more than happy to send over some times, and if someone in the group would like to walk through, that would be great.
So I tried to Google you guys today, and I was putting in civil service instead of civil serve, so I didn't get very far with that. Just kind of curious, how long have you guys been? How long has your company been around? Give us a little history.
Yeah, I'll say it is civic. So if you were using an L, that might be why it didn't come up. Civic serve instead of civil serve. We've been around here for about 4 years. We are based out of Illinois, and our company headquarters are there. And then we've, expanded. We're working in about 13 or 14 different states here. We really started as a company working with TIF, tax increment financing, and some of the different compliance issues that have coming and stemming from that. And then over the last number of years have really expanded into what we refer to as the entire economic development life cycle. Again, we only really showed the project management component of things today, but we have a lot of other functionalities baked within the platform, such as customer relations management, reporting, some financial details, a lot of efforts into business retention and expansion, and some of those components there. We only support economic development. We mainly work with different cities. We work with counties and other EDOs as well, but the large majority of our customers are cities.
So
I would also add to that effect, if I may, the owner of our company, John Dylan Schneider, we are a privately held company, and he formerly started a very successful FOIA software company, GovQA, that has been around for a very long time and is really an industry standard in the FOIA space. So we have a proven track record of success from a leadership perspective and someone who knows what it takes to properly serve governments with software.
okay, my last question. So basically, communication with you folks is through Teams. There's nobody local here in the Treasure Valley that we could call upon or set in front of and talk to. It's done more like this. Is that right?
Yeah, so all of our customers, upon implementation and configuration, work with Justine and her team, who, as she mentioned, are all well-versed and have practiced economic development for a while. They walk you through the implementation and configuration, kickoff meetings, training, and things like that. And then we set all of our customers up with a customer success manager to meet with you virtually. They'll be able to handle all of your questions. They'll meet with you regularly, show you new updates to the software, and also help through the city as it has any questions as it pertains to the software. But yes, all of that would be done virtually, to answer your question.
Okay, well, that's all I have. Thank you guys very much. Thank you.
Yes, thank you all very much for the time. We greatly appreciate it.
Oh, one more question, Mr. Cole?
Yeah, other than testimonials, where would we go to check references on your company?
In terms of like references, is a question based out of, would you like to speak like with some current customers as a reference?
I like the type of work you do, quality of your work.
Yeah, I mean, we'd be happy to set you up with a phone call with any of our existing customers as a reference. We make the introduction, then of course excuse ourselves from the call. Also happy to send over some different things like the case studies and our website to look through some of those different components as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Any other questions? Very good. Thanks for the presentation. We appreciate it very much.
Yes, thank you all very much. Have a lovely evening.
Look forward to talking to you again. Thank you.
Likewise. Take care.
Okay, that brings us to our next item. It's our conflict of interest declaration. Do any of the commission members have anything on the agenda tonight that would present a conflict of interest? Okay, seeing none, we'll move ahead. It's our public comment portion. Are there any members of the audience this evening that would like to speak to the commission about items not on our agenda tonight? Not seeing any. So, takes us to the consent calendar. Do we have a motion in regard to the consent calendar?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Doty?
make a motion that we approve the consent calendar as printed.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Doty, a second by Ms. Warwick. Any conversation or questions? Would the secretary call the roll?
Commissioner Doty,
Yes.
Commissioner Moore,
Yes.
Commissioner,
Yes.
sorry. I'm going to start over. Commissioner Doty,
Yes.
Commissioner Moore,
Yes.
Commissioner Allgood,
Yes.
Commissioner Cole,
Yes.
Commissioner Porter,
Yes.
Commissioner Brooks,
Yes.
Commissioner Warwick.
Yes.
Very good. That brings us to our update reports. Our first is from our RC contractors, and I see Stephen stepping up to the microphone.
Right. Good to see you all again, and I just want to give a quick update on behalf of RRC Contractors, Derek Cooper. Derek is out of the country currently. He and I have been working closely together on their project. You all perhaps have seen the progress that has been made out there. It's tangible. They're pulling utility infrastructure into the site right now. Kimball is currently closed to accommodate that infrastructure coming into their property. In working with TJ Franz from engineering and Rob McDonald, our public works director, we had to understand that there's some issues with the site as it relates to power. There's a power pole at the northeast corner of the site. That can be removed, and Derek was committed to doing that, but we didn't want him to waste, resources to get that done. Ultimately, we just need to underground the power with Idaho Power. That process is approximately 3 months out, and I'm reading an email right now from TJ. There's some steps that need to be done ahead of that process, and he's working with multiple entities to get that done. So we are 3 months out from the project going vertical, but as of now, there is utility infrastructure being pulled into the property. So I'll stop there unless there are any further questions that I can help answer.
Mr. Allgood, did you have a question?
Oh, no.
Okay. Okay. That's
Thank
good.
you.
Thank you, Stephen. Mr. Maybon, good evening.
Good evening. Chairman, Commissioners, I don't have anything much different, nothing too sexy, just essentially engineers doing engineering stuff. So we had a meeting this last Wednesday to fine tune things, to get another meeting in with the city engineer to get the final permitting tuned up and touched up. And so we've been meeting every Wednesday to work through that. And there's no other update.
Any questions for Mr. Maybon?
Just one real quick. Are you
Mr.
still
Doty?
on track?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
Meeting all your timelines?
I didn't check the timelines right now, but as far as I know, yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Moore?
Sean, thanks for showing up here every time and giving us an update, you and your client. I mean, that tells me that you guys are on the hook and nobody else
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, yeah, we care. So, you almost got me this time because I had a middle school girls basketball game to go to. It was fantastic. They got into the double digits, it got pretty exciting, and then it was over.
Yeah.
Yeah, so. I don't know
Thanks,
if you have
Sean.
any- Yeah, thank you guys.
Thank you, Mr. Maybon. Brings us to base layer, Miguel, or who's speaking? Good evening.
How are you,
Good.
Chairman, Commissioners? Thanks for having us. My name's Shane Jimenez. Miguel's out of the country right now, so I thought I'd come and give you a quick update. We put together just a little video here. This is as of this morning, so if we can go ahead and run that would be great. Thanks. As you can see, we've been very busy. We took your advice to come back, Commissioner Moore, and give an update on this project. We were fortunate to be able to kind of start the project on time. We've come in on the construction side well under our original budget. And we should wrap up the project within the next few days on the paving side. And then we'll be able to stripe, and I'm sure that a lot of people out there that travel that road or that state highway are very interested to see what we're doing. And, all of a sudden there's a road being built kind of out in the middle of a cornfield. So I'm sure that's piqued some interest. From the sales and marketing standpoint, it sure brought a few people out of the woodwork. We're still engaged with several folks that are interested in purchasing land, looking at expanding their businesses. Some are existing Caldwell businesses, and others are out of the area. So we'll just continue to build, and I'm sure there'll be more to come.
Very good, exciting times. Mr. Moore?
I drove out there today and I saw all that pavement. I pulled over on the corner of gravel there in 2026 and reflected on many hours since 1978, 79, staring across there, waiting for customers to come in. And just to see that whole progress, it's really neat to see the opportunity and the growth, I think, in a positive way. So I appreciate you guys coming in here and sharing that video. It's really neat.
Of course, thank you. Yeah, we share that enthusiasm with you. We're excited to see it get going, and I think good things to come.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions or comments? Very good. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much.
Brings us to 7th and Main. Do we have a brief word from Dean?
Yes, and Dean Pape sends his regrets. He had a familial obligation he needed to attend tonight. His legal counsel reached out, and I mentioned to her she was going to share the same report I'm going to share today. He sent a comprehensive email to me, and I told her it was fine. I'm happy to share it, and then Dean does plan on being here for the next meeting, though. He did mention that in his email. So for the update for 7th and Main, he says plans are progressing on retail activated ground floor with upper floor office. We are creating a courtyard between the Tillion and future building to draw people from Indian Creek Plaza to the creek. Retail will spill out into the courtyard. No new parking is introduced or requested. 2 retail partners remain interested in the spaces. We are currently looking for office tenants. And then lastly, contractor is pricing a new scheme. Again, Dean is planning to attend the next meeting. He says he will attend next month with the design team. And I provided him with the date so he can be available to attend on that date at this time. So that's all I have for this update, unless I can answer any questions.
Any questions for Stephen in regard to 7th and Main?
One real quick.
Mr. Doty?
Is he on track? Is he on time for when he needed to be back? Which is good that we're discussing that software or whatever we're going to do. This is the issue, right? We all have to try and do it from memory, which becomes very difficult. So how's he looking for his timeline?
Yeah, Chairman, Commissioner Doty, I do feel as though he is progressing in the manner that he should be, given the time frame for this project to go vertical under construction. So yeah, he's working with tenants actively. Sounds like he has a design in place. He's working on a retail office project. So sounds like he's in a good place.
Stephen, what do you expect us to see next month? Will we see drawings? Will we see? Okay.
Yeah, that's what I would anticipate. Just some renderings, something that would maybe showcase a site plan, showing some of the elements that he conveyed in his email.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Brings us up to Wolfpack and Carrie. Good evening, Carrie.
I think I came back. Hi, welcome. Thank you for being here tonight and for letting me give you an update. I don't have much of an update besides that I'm going to be super vague. We did meet with 2 developers in the last month. Another one is a no-go, and then one is looking very promising on a development. And I'm going to be in touch with Stephen and Ophelia soon, and basically looking to see if we can get city support on the type of development that would be built on the grass pad. So I'm really vague, and I really am not at liberty to give more information than that tonight, but I am available for questions.
Okay. Is there anyone who would like to attempt to extract more information from Carrie this evening? Mr. Moore.
Thanks for showing up tonight and giving us that report. We appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Very good. Anything else? Thank you, Carrie.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. That concludes our update reports. Takes us to old business, of which there is none, which takes us to new business. Our first action item is to consider invoices for payment as recommended by our treasurer. Good evening, Raylene.
So this is the tricky time of year where we play in 2 fiscal years. And so some of these expenses are for fiscal year '24 because we do accrual accounting, which means that if it was for something before September 30th, it's going to get paid in fiscal year '24. And if it was something after September 30th, it's paid in fiscal year '25. So for these invoices, we have $12,245.60 for project 26. $18,900 for the November Economic Development contributions, $6,800 for the October attorney services, and $45,074.56 for project 12, for a total of $83,020.16.
Very good. Mr. Allgood, do you have a question?
Yeah, and I'm not sure who to ask this question. I'll ask you, Raylene, but anybody can pitch in. We have paid a number of sums for this wayfinding, but I haven't seen anything. And I know we had this discussion previously. Would you remind me why we haven't seen anything yet?
So I actually just had a conversation with Tiffany in Parks today, and they are starting to put up the signs. I think the delay was just how busy street department was, and they have to install poles and the signs. So you'll see some of the signs go up, but not all of them because they're waiting for the poles. And so this is for the materials, not for the installation.
Okay, if I can continue.
Certainly.
I was really hoping this stuff would be completed before Winter Wonderland, and it doesn't look like we're getting there. Do you have any kind of timeline?
I do not, but I can definitely follow up with
But I'm not
Danae.
trying to put this on you.
No,
I apologize. You're just the one standing there.
I can follow up with Danae to make sure, and forward that to the committee, so,
Okay,
on the timeline.
thank you, Raylene.
Mr. Moore?
I would piggyback with what was just said. I think we kind of expected that to happen before Winter Wonderland. Being part of the parking committee discussion that we had yesterday, yeah, there was some conversation there that the poles or something doesn't structurally match up with something and this, that, and the other. And I'm like, well, I thought it was going to be done before. So, you know, I would think that somebody would want to come here and report on this. And I don't think it's her responsibility.
No. We'll make a note and we will ask Danae to appear next month and get a full report.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Hawkins?
if we could get maybe an email before then, because Winter Wonderland's coming right up, and it'd be nice to know if we're gonna have anything up before that occurs.
From the meeting yesterday, it didn't sound like there was going to be, but it wouldn't hurt to have an email verifying that.
We'll get something official. I'll reach out to her tomorrow. Okay, do we have a motion in regard to these invoices for payment?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Allgood?
I move we pay the invoices as presented.
Okay, we have a motion. We have a second?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Allgood, second by Ms. Warwick. Any questions? Would the secretary call the roll?
Commissioner Allgood,
Yes.
Commissioner Cole,
Yes?
Commissioner Porter,
Yes.
Commissioner Brooks,
Yes.
Commissioner Warwick,
Yes.
Commissioner Doty,
Yes.
Commissioner Moore.
Yes.
Very good. And that takes us to our treasurer report.
So there's 3 reports, and as you know, time of year where we talk about 2 different years. For the bank reconciliation, I rolled that over into the new fiscal year with October. And so you're gonna see there's checks posted for November. Those are checks we approved last year. They just had not cleared the bank. And so to make sure the cash balances, added those in. They cleared in November though. So we have a total between the 2 bank accounts of $5,245,335.87. And then when we go between the fiscal years, the cash kind of gets reported in fiscal year '25. but the expenditures get reported as vouchers payable in fiscal year '24. So you'll see the budgets for any of the projects go on to the fiscal '24 financial overview, but get reported in cash on the fiscal year '25. So it's a lot of moving pieces, and if you have any questions, let me know. In next month should be the last month that we have any fiscal year '24 invoices. So we've started closing out fiscal year '24. The audit is going to be this next month coming up as well, so we'll have that going through. We are almost out. We actually found one more project that we had in the street department, and so we'll actually almost through all of our projects for the East Urban Renewal area. So we will start to see in '25 that those projects are going to be close to zero or almost zero, which will be fantastic. So.
Ms. Warwick, do you have a question for Raylene?
No, sorry.
Any other questions? Okay, do we have a motion in regard to the monthly cash reconciliation?
Mr. Chair, make a motion to approve the monthly cash reconciliation reports.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Doty,
Second.
and a second by Ms. Warwick. Mr. Cole, do you have a additional? Okay. Would the secretary call the roll?
Commissioner Doty,
Yes.
Commissioner Moore,
Yes.
Commissioner Allgood,
Yes.
Commissioner Cole,
Yes.
Commissioner Porter,
Yes.
Commissioner Brooks,
Yes.
Commissioner Warwick. Yes.
Okay, this brings us to our project list.
So, with the project list, of the projects that are still open, the underground power, Stephen kind of spoke of that issue, that engineering is working through. So that is, with all the other alleyways, that is still a work in progress. And so there hasn't been a lot of costs that hit in that, but that project is underway. For the Ustick Bridge, project, you're going to see half of those funds be spent next month. We found in the street fund that there was funding being spent, so we did. So you'll see that drastically change. And then for the rest of these projects, we are working to close them out little by little. So.
Mr.
Just
Doty?
one question, Mr. Chair. Is putting the power underground, is that going to shoot that project over its projected budget?
So I don't believe it's going to go over its projected budget. I think it's just taking a lot of time because there's multiple agencies that are just going through it and work through that process.
Thank you.
Very good. Now a report on our property locations.
So there was a list in your packet because Mr. Allgood or Commissioner Allgood asked about it. And so there are 5 locations still in the Urban Renewal's name. 2 of those are like right-of-ways. And so I did talk to engineering and the Public Works Director about getting those corrected. But the other 3 properties currently are still in the Urban Renewal's name. And I don't have any plans to transfer them out unless there is a request by the Urban Renewal Agency to do that, or by the city.
Mr. Doty?
I'd just like to hear from Mr. Hilty on that, if it's required to transfer them back to the city once that closes out.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Doty, the answer to that is no, and I will concede that I had believed that would be part of winding up that East Urban Renewal area, and I had reported that to the agency. I went to Mr. Waterman this fall and said, we need to push that forward and dispose of those properties. He, in communication with the Tax Commission, believes that there's a way for the agency to maintain, to keep those properties after the closeout of the East Urban Renewal area. And I said, look, give me a memorandum so that I can get something to the agency so that they understand what we're doing and why. But it's going to be our advice that that is not required, and that the agency can transfer those properties to the city at any time. There's statutory authority to do that. But if the intention with those properties would be possibly to fold them into another urban renewal area, or even to do maybe single site areas like Site A, that it makes probably more sense for the agency to maintain and keep those so that it could be, redeveloped through that RFP process, rather than what the city would do, which is to auction them off. And so I'll have something for you in terms of a legal opinion, as well as a report on that at the December meeting.
Okay. Then the last item, Raylene, is the funds associated with the Canyon County Expo.
So I did talk to Diana Sinner, because I know when they made their presentation, there were some inconsistencies with the amount they were reporting to the amount we were reporting. So I did reach out to her a couple times, and the last time I reached out to her, she said she was working with the county and she believed that those inconsistencies were on their side, because we have a proper accounting, but I did tell her if she needed anything from me, that I'd be happy to provide all the documentation I have, so.
Okay. Any questions or comments there? Great, thanks.
Mr. Chair, I just, Raylene, so do we have a date where that's gonna get reconciled, so we're both on the same page?
She did not give me a date on that.
Because I know that's one we're anxious to get finished with. And so I'm just thinking at some point I'd love to have a,
I know that I saw another bill from them today, which will reduce that amount, but I can make sure to send another email with the amount that we have and see if we can make sure to get a conclusion on that.
again, I hate to keep putting stuff on you, but this is one that we've been wanting to get done, so,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thanks, Raylene. Brings us to our economic development report. Stephen.
Chairman Porter, thank you so much. Commissioners, I will start off by referring to the miscellaneous projects as I typically do. Project Bengal is a project I've been working on for a little more than a year and a half or so. They are finalizing an internal decision by December as far as the location of interest is concerned. We should have, by the end of the year, an announcement on their willingness to come to Caldwell. So that's good news. Project Paces, and Commissioner Warwick, this is a note that I took out of some previous comments, just sharing updates on some of these project names. This is Home Depot. So we were able to announce that formally, but this is a 100,000 square foot retail store with some commercial pads as well. So the site itself is 16.9 acres. It will have about 5 retail pads in conjunction with the Home Depot project. It should be open by mid to late 2025. So they're right on schedule. In fact, I think they're ahead of schedule. So doing really well there. Project Bold Horizon, this was a site visit that was held on October 19th. This is a lead from Boise Valley Economic Partnerships in downtown Boise. This is a manufacturer that would add 526 jobs to the Boise Metro, and they are considering Idaho and Utah currently. So I was there to represent Caldwell and showcase all the great things that are happening in our community. They're hoping to expand by about 200,000 square feet. There's one building of interest within Sky Ranch that is on their radar that they're reviewing right now. Project Star, we've been working with this group for a very long time as well. They're investigating industrial revenue bonds with the city, and they're looking at ways to finance this large-scale project. So we're hopeful that they'll pull the trigger and really, make a decision on their location plans. Project Omaha, they are under contract officially on a property in East Caldwell for a drive-through coffee shop. The Griddle, this is one that we announced in the Economic Development Department not too long ago, and they have submitted plans to the city. They do need to go through design review because they're a downtown location, but outside of that, it sounds like they are moving forward with plans to locate in the Tillian building. Project Bluey, they signed a lease officially on a building in Sky Ranch. This is a group that is expanding locally, and these are great projects for the city because 60 to 70% of new jobs, according to national surveys, are created by existing companies, not new ones coming in. So that's important for us to do that. They're going to add 6 new jobs to Caldwell. They are a partner with Simplot. Project Husky is KSA Investments. This is a hotel project. Of course, you all probably have heard that I've been working with City Council on this one. They're hoping to develop 100+ rooms, a pool, meeting space, dining area within a hotel project here in Caldwell. The Arthur Kimball RFP, I do have some users that are interested in this one. They are awaiting for that RFP to be disseminated officially. One such group is Project Sunny. They are planning a future downtown restaurant to support their growing brand. The amphitheater is moving forward. Discussions have been very positive. They are looking to hopefully be at the November 18th meeting. It may be pushed to December 2nd, but I'll keep tabs on that. but plans are moving forward quite nicely. One of the reasons I like to bring this one up is because of the transformative effect that it could have on the North Caldwell Urban Renewal District should it land in Caldwell. The Charles, this project is on Karcher and Lake. They are looking at putting infrastructure into the project. They've been working with city staff to get that project off the ground. If you don't recall, it has about 1,300 units that have been approved for that project, and it considers retail and residential. And then we were able to host, the city of Caldwell was able to host the Japanese External Trade Organization. This was a couple weeks ago. Ophelia was out of town. Everything went well, but I bought the wrong tablecloths. We have rectangular tables. I bought the round tablecloths, so she needed to be here to really help me with that, and she wasn't. But it was a great visit overall. We had 26 representatives, some from Japan directly, businessmen and women, but others from across the region that had a Japanese background. I've actually connected with 2 companies since that visit, so it was a fruitful visit. We had a great tour with Simplot that Ophelia helped set up, and it was just a wonderful time in Caldwell. Moving on to the North Caldwell Urban Renewal District, Project Horizon is a large-scale company. They are still looking at locating here. We're still working with them closely. We're hoping that we can solidify their plans by Q1 of next year. Maverick, that was announced as well. They're moving forward with plans to develop in that new urban renewal district. And then WeatherTight Roofing is a company we're working with. They have some infrastructure challenges to their property, but we are still working with them to try to mitigate those issues. And then additional notes and updates, just a few things that I found to be relevant to the economy. As of September 2024, the inflation rate is 2.4%. It was at its highest, I think 9.2% in 2022. So that's quite a difference from where we were at 2 years ago. Mortgage rates are at 6.934% on a 30-year conventional loan. That's relatively high for the homeowners or the folks that are trying to buy a home in this market. And then one thing to note is Idaho is the third for the highest percentage of federally owned land. We're at 61.9%. I put this in here because many of you, I didn't know this coming into the city, but Mallard Park was owned previously by BLM. And Debbie Geyer, our city clerk, worked with BLM to acquire that piece of ground to make it Mallard Park. And I think in the future, we have ambitions to do more of that. So that's one of the reasons why I put that metric in there. There's a significant change in manufacturing jobs. You guys can see this graphic across the country, and Idaho is above 6% in terms of the jobs that are created in manufacturing. And then lastly, there's a map here, and if you're from California, I apologize, but it shows the new residents that have moved from California across the country, and Idaho is a recipient of a large share of those Californians coming in. And money is green, so I'm not mad at them, but I can tell you, I know that the sentiment locally is, it's split. So just want to show that graphic to substantiate, I think, what we're all feeling and seeing. With that, I'll have stand for any questions you might have.
Questions for Stephen? Mr. Moore?
Not so much a question as it is, a week ago, 2 weeks ago, we just closed a loan, locked a loan with 0.5% origination at 5.8%, 30-year fixed, conventional. That could have been a 5.5%. So rates are not 6.9. I mean, depending on your credit and that, but I see this thing still going and taking off with some recent changes that we've had here with an election and that. So yeah. I think confidence is on the way. I had another question, and I don't think I want to ask it though. But thank you for those updates.
You bet. Thank you.
Stephen, I have a question. What do you foresee in the next 12 to 18 months out in the North District? What do you see coming?
Chairman, I really do see some strong momentum with these forthcoming projects. I'm hopeful that Maverick will break ground early next year and really kickstart a lot of good momentum, good energy. I think what District 26 showed us is a great example of what that could look like in the future, and that is a good step in the right direction. It just allows for folks to see progress. The more of that we can see, the better. The next big step for us is annexation. We're going to have to get properties annexed into the city of Caldwell so they can work directly with our team to ensure that their projects move forward expeditiously. And that's going to be critical for our growth and for the future of what we're looking at. We did see an announcement made in Nampa for a project that was eyeing Caldwell. We worked with them for a very long time. One of the key issues as to why they didn't land here was annexation. So that's been a key hiccup for us in that northwest Caldwell area, and we're trying to close that gap.
Any other questions for Stephen?
Just a comment, Mr. Chair, also that comp plan should be wrapping up in the next month or so. So I think that also may cause some hesitancy, right, until we know what we want to put out there and where the zones are at. So once that wraps up, I think that'll help as well, so.
Yeah, and thank you for your work on that, Commissioner Doty. I feel like your presence on the team has been helpful and just really casting a vision out there, so we appreciate that.
Great. Thank you, Stephen.
Thank you.
Ophelia, it's your turn.
Good evening. I think we might be able to get out of here, a little before 8 p.m., so I'll just go quickly through my downtown updates. So Project Gym Juice, I was really hopeful for this project. This is a downtown business that was seeking to expand a concept. Like Stephen mentioned, one of his projects, Sunny, I think it's called Sunny. Once you find those brands that do really well in your community, they tend to expand. So that was a hope for this. Unfortunately, the space did not work out for them. The individual did not want to do an appraisal on his building, so they could not move forward with that loan. So we'll continue that search for them. Project Water, again, we continue to do that search as well. Project Wash. This was more of a boutique concept. That entrepreneur is no longer interested, as we have very limited space that's affordable. The space that they were looking at was roughly $640 a month. And so for an entrepreneur, that's a great starting point when you are just starting your business. And unfortunately, that was already picked up by someone else. So at this time, she's sort of moved on. Project Print, we're still continuing to look for space for them as well. As I've mentioned, it's a little challenging finding the space that they specifically need for their product. And then we're moving on to new projects. Project Retail, local business seeking space to open a new business. Again, familiar with the downtown. People want to expand and grow, open up new business. So we're excited for that. This retail will be for families. So we're excited for that. I know Boise just made an announcement on one of these type of businesses opening up in their location. So we're still continuing to look there. Project Dime, entrepreneurs seeking large space to offer services for young audiences. We're excited again, more family-friendly sort of projects coming into our downtown. Project Black, local business seeking to purchase a building for future expansion. So the current buildings that we have in our market, they range anywhere from 1.1 million to 4+ million. So Crossroads Church, if you look them up, they're at 4 million. So kind of take a look at that, but we are hopeful that we are seeing some of the business owners who have been here for a bit willing to work with some of these entrepreneurs. New businesses that have opened up recently, Botana Time, if you're familiar with 2523 South 10th Avenue, used to be a Quiznos long time ago. That is now the new Botana Time. That is on the Willow Marketplace, I believe this is what that area is on, off of 10th. So give them a try. Dangerfield Beauty, if you're familiar with Undiscovered Barrel, where they were located, this has now taken over for that in that space. And then upcoming events, we have Winter Wonderland November 22nd through the 24th. We also have Nutcracker that weekend. So we're hoping to see an economic boost for our downtown businesses, who right now we're going through shoulder season, so it's a little bit quiet downtown. So if you have any shopping, if you want to eat, drink, please do it in our downtown and in Caldwell specifically to kind of help out those businesses. So that is all I have for tonight.
Mr. Ogden, you have a...
Yeah, Ophelia. Has Amano said when they're going to open their new location, when the grand opening will be for that?
Yeah, so they were hoping to be in this month. Unfortunately, that timeline was not met. They are looking to open up in the first quarter, so spring, probably more towards March, April is kind of where they're at now with their timeline.
Mr. Moore.
Ophelia, what can you tell us about occupancy rates? And I mean, what can you share with us that is not top secret? I mean, how our businesses, our buildings
vacant? Are they occupied? What's it look like the last 90 days?
So the reason why we have vacancy buildings is, again, we're starting to see an increase in terms of the lease rates. So right now, we have one specifically on the plaza that's $25 a square foot without triple net. With triple net, you're looking at $29, $30 a square foot, right? So right now, that there's a business that's going to do a pop-up in that space in the month of November and December. But in terms of, it's really not that affordable, right? I sharing with Steven, not too long ago, I was in downtown Boise, and you saw office space that was on 8th Street, up above those restaurants that are really busy in downtown. They were $15 a square foot. Downtown Caldwell, we have $24 a square foot, and that's because of the demand, right, to be in downtown. And of course, with the new spaces, you're looking at Tilling at $26 a square foot, plus triple net. So we are trying to keep our downtown very unique. We want those entrepreneurs. Unfortunately, those spaces don't lend themselves to those entrepreneurs' pockets. So we're starting to still see those higher rate spaces stay open for quite a bit. Now we're starting to see an increase of beauty salons and barbershops because they can't charge per chair, right? So they're the ones that are able to afford those spaces. But in terms of retail, it's a little tougher because I would say the average would be $19 a square foot right now. But we're starting to see, again, $20, $25, $26 a square foot is what we're seeing.
So that square footage rate has actually came down, right?
No, it's actually increased. The lease rates have increased, and one of the businesses that I spoke with not too long ago, they shared that Nampa is actually higher. So they were looking more in that Winco area, and they shared that they were kind of hitting the $35 a square foot in that area. So, so they weren't scared at all when it came to Caldwell. It's just that location just didn't make sense for them, what we have down here.
Thank you.
Yep, absolutely.
Ophelia, I have a question, but I know that there will not be any numbers to support, everything that you may answer with would be a little bit of editorializing, but, you're on the front lines. How much has business improved for retailers downtown since the parking meters were removed?
Yeah, so I think to Commissioner Moore's point, the economy isn't that great, right? So that's the reality. A lot of people have talked to a couple of businesses before the meters went in, and they were very in favor of the meters. And they said, "Hey, look, we've had to make some adjustments at home as well, because it is tough during these tough times." And they saw their numbers dip a little bit during the parking. They're back to where they're at now, where they typically would want to be. Other businesses have said, "Look, we're still in the same place that we were." With the meters, without the meters, retail is just really interesting, and you see that across many other communities. We have conversations with our friends in Nampa, Boise, all the other communities. It's the same. Retail is struggling a little bit. You have big box retails that have a lot of money, and they have a great marketing strategy, how they go about marketing their business. I mean, you saw Target, they sort of slashed their prices on certain goods to bring back consumers. So some businesses haven't really seen that impact in terms of their businesses being any better because the parking has been removed.
Great, thank you. Any other questions for Ophelia? Thanks for the report.
Absolutely.
Brings us to our attorney reports. Welcome, Mr. Hilty.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, Commissioners. If you've driven by 306 Kimball and seen the paving on Mike Mussel's parking lot, that's been a long time coming, and it's nice to see it there. As you may recall, I've had my thumb in his back for most of 2024 to get that done. I intended to drive by and take a look tonight, but it was too dark as I was on my way. But I understand he's got, in addition to the paving, which is largely completed, he's got some of his landscaping in. So he's closing in on being done. That will also complete that project generally. And so, as you know, we've done a couple of partial certificates of completion, one for the Tillian, phase one of that project, and then again, we did one for the phase one of the theater just at the last meeting, I think. So we'll see one of those for Mr. Mussel's project. He will be done with that certificate of completion. I'm still working with building department and planning and zoning to make sure that we've checked all the boxes and that everything he needed to do is actually done. But once he gets sign off on the parking lot, I think he's there. I'm going to take up the third item, and then we can, because 4B might be a little bit of a discussion item on reports from developers. So if you'll permit me, I'll just jump down and talk about the status of Site A. The City Council has approved or declared the area to be deteriorated or deteriorating, which opens the way for the urban renewal plan. The agency, of course, it was last time, looked at the plan, approved that, and made a similar declaration. The next step in the process is the Planning and Zoning hearing. The statutes require that the Planning and Zoning Commission review the draft plan to determine its compliance with our comprehensive plan. That is going to happen tomorrow night, and then following that, it'll be scheduled for a hearing before the City Council on an ordinance creating the new area, which is the final step in the process. Mr. Waterman told me he's looking at the second meeting in December for that hearing, and the agency that would then be created at that point. And I think we've had a draft RFP floating around. I think, Mr. Moore, you've seen it for several months. We could potentially get that issued before the end of the year, following that, the City Council action on the ordinance. And then, Stephen, I'm trying to remember from the draft, is that 90-day response time or 60 days?
I believe we did a 30-day.
30-day? Yeah. Okay. So my sense probably is that we ought to have the agency look at that final RFP draft, maybe the meeting in January. And so by February, we could have some responses to that RFP. Any questions on the status of Site A?
Mr. Allgood?
Just remind me, please, Mark, have we established a base value, tax value on that property? Has that been done?
Yeah, it would be in the feasibility study, Raylyn, and it's currently not taxed because it's owned by the agency. I guess that it encompasses that other parcel too.
The base value, I don't have the exact numbers, but it's just under $500,000 for the base values.
But we've established a starting point for increment.
That is correct.
And just to clarify, that we have to do that for our own feasibility study. The base assessment roll is ultimately calculated by the county. I'm sure they'll do the same thing Raylyn did, but they will establish that base assessment roll at the assessor's office.
And that's in the timeline, so we can start determining how much our increment value would be?
Yeah,
Yep.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, yeah, when I did the feasibility study, I worked with Brian Stender at the county to get those numbers. And year 1, 2, and 3, there's no increment at all because there's the assumption that we have to wait until there's something built upon and finished with an occupation permit. And then we would receive increment on it. That's how. And that was with conversations with Brian Stender on that recommendation of why I did it that way.
Okay, thank you.
All right, let's talk about developer reporting. I know this was a topic that was discussed at the last meeting and I was not at. The chairman asked me to sort of weigh in on it, and so really, I mean, it's going to be up to the commission, as you are aware, what you would like to see in terms of developers coming and reporting to you. What I thought I'd do as sort of a kickoff is talk to the commission about what is in our standard DDA, and so I brought one with me. At least these pages out of it. This is the DDA that was approved for TS development, but it's similar language as far as I can recall in all of our other DDAs as well. The DDA provides that the reporting really is heightened and important and required once construction starts. Okay, so currently, for those projects like TS development at 510 Arthur, there's not a contractual requirement per se that they come and report on the status. Might be something we want to change in future DDAs. I'm just reporting to you, I guess, as a baseline what we have in place. Once construction starts, that changes dramatically, but the reporting is premised on the requests of the agency. And so Basically, the idea is the developer is obligated to make those reports when the agency asks for them, and they can be very significant. There is a paragraph about the requirement that the developer permit agency staff to attend even weekly construction progress meetings that the developer might be holding with contractor and subcontractors. That would be a requirement if it was requested by the agency. There is also provision for them to provide a monthly written report. There is a provision that says, if requested, attend and provide oral status reports on the project at regular monthly meetings of the agency's Board of Commissioners. That is, what you're asking for is a current requirement, at least for those projects that have reached the construction stage. And then further, to the extent that those meetings, which would be staff level meetings, written reports, and appearance at regular meetings, to the extent that those are insufficient, the agency can request additional information and additional meetings as well. So you certainly have the authority under the DDA, once they get into construction, to require them to appear at every monthly meeting. I think the question was, from a policy standpoint, is that a hard and fast requirement? If it's not, how do we want to handle exceptions? How do we as staff, I guess, evaluate, for example, we had a developer who wasn't here because there was a family engagement. He submitted a written status report. Is that okay? Is it okay for staff to decide that that's acceptable? I think, from my perspective, and I assume I speak for the rest of staff, we're just looking for some comment and direction from the commissioners as to what you would like to see. And I guess just to share my thoughts on it, this isn't, the difficulty is, I think the question is whether it's reasonable to require them to come. I think that's, Mr. Chairman, what you and I talked about. I think I would look at it a different way. Is it reasonable for them to be excused from that? And I think, we got a developer that's traveling out of the country, and again, one that had a family commitment tonight. I think you have to look at those reasons they're not here, but then also you got to compare that to what is the status of the project. So with TS development, Sean comes regularly, but what he shared tonight was, we're doing design, we're having our engineers look at it. There's not much different than what I told you last month. Now, if he had a basketball game for his daughter, and that was the report, probably reasonable to excuse him. Let me give you a different scenario. If, and this is not the case, but hypothetically, if RRC had run afoul of government regulations and their project was red tagged and their construction ground to a halt, I think it doesn't matter whether he's out of the country. Somebody needs to be here to explain those circumstances. So I think it's a combination of why are they gone and what is the status of the project. And I think probably, unless we get different direction from the commission, we'd probably at staff try to evaluate those things and give you what update we could if we felt like there was a reason, it was a reasonable month for the developer to be excused, kind of based on balancing those criteria. So hopefully that's helpful. I'm certainly happy to listen to your discussion and take whatever direction you have.
Very good. Thank you, Mark. Mr. Doty?
I think everything, Mark, you said is pretty common sense based. I think the issue comes down to when there isn't a problem and then they don't come, or we've already given them all the money and now they don't have to come because what are we going to do to them, right? So to speak. And hopefully that doesn't happen with a lot of projects, but I think a lot of things have been discussed, whether they put down some sort of payment before they receive the money, and this may be in the future as the new urban renewal areas come into play. But you're right, what is the penalty for not showing up? And what I don't like is when they are having an issue, I don't like our staff making excuses for them, and then the only person that we have, for lack of a better word, to admonish is our own staff standing up there, and that's just never a good look. Stephen, Ophelia shouldn't be, or Raylyn, or yourself, shouldn't be getting chewed out for a developer that's not hitting their timelines. I think the web-based thing is something we should look at again, at least, and if, and then you assign responsibilities if they're not hitting timelines, if they're not completing those reports, because you're right, TS Development could have filled that out web-based and we'd have been just fine with that tonight. Certainly don't want anyone missing a kid's game over nothing's changed. We're on track, right, where they could fill that out. It's just a matter of finding money, and if if the commission supports that program or not. But I think that it's more the key is what happens, for me, is what happens if they're not hitting their timelines? What do we do? But certainly, I think we're compassionate here. If our children are having ball games and you don't, and there's nothing significant, all the timelines are on track, I don't think you have to fly in. And I think on the other side of that is if you are having trouble, there are many ways to communicate with us, whether that's by Zoom or something. If it's that significant and you need money from us, then you might want to jump on a phone call real quick, right? So just my 2 cents on that.
Thank you, Mr. Doty. Ms. Warwick?
Thank you. I tend to agree. If we do need some kind of project management that helps us to remember where these projects are and whether they're meeting their timelines. If they're meeting their timelines, if they're right on track and they've got no issues, I don't see a need to have them here. But I don't remember where everybody is supposed to be. And so without knowing that, it's really tough to make a determination whether they should be here or whether they shouldn't. I think we need to figure out some way to follow these projects along. And, you know, like I said, Sean, you know, really didn't need to be here to make a report of, you know, there's really nothing going on. You know, totally agreed. But yet there have been projects when there's been, you know, problems and we don't know about it until a couple of months later because nobody told us. And so if they're meeting timelines, great. If they're not, I would expect them to be at every meeting until they are.
Mr. Allgood?
Yeah, I agree with what the other commissioners said. I think I would like from the start, I mean, our meetings are the same date every month. An email from the developer a week ahead of time or whatever that could be in the packet that we could look at and say, you know, for instance, TS development, you know, we're hitting our timeline, our engineers are doing this, thank you, we're done, you know. But we have something we can see, we have it in writing in our packet, we can see it, we're good, you know. And like the other commissioner said, if we're having issues, then we need to know right off. But if we get our packets 5 days early, we can sit and review those and know if we have questions, and that would be appreciated by me, just something in there to know where we're at.
Mr. Moore?
I would kind of second what was just said here on an email. I think Mr. Sean Maven, I think he just likes to be here. Okay, so, and he shows up. I mean, an email, and I've always said this, and I was the first one to bring this up. An email from him in our packet, like was just described, I mean, we can review that. If we have any questions, we can ask nicely, you know. But I think if I'm out in TV land and I'm watching this live and I'm listening to Stephen use words like we, kind of talking, you know, on behalf of a developer, maybe, you know, maybe I might think he's signed on the note for that deal. I mean, I know he's not, but it's kind of a vague thing as you go back and watch it. You know, working in banking and finance, a project like this, we deal directly with the developer, the customer, the builder, and there's, you know, unless there's a project manager, which we know is an attorney, somebody, it's dealt that way. Otherwise, it's not. So I think it needs to come in a consistent basis. And we've been talking about this, not to beat a horse here, but we've been talking about this for a couple of years now. So I think it's an easy fix. I think we're just kind of overthinking this. And, you know, if I'm awarded a property and some concessions, I think the least I could do is to show up and describe, or have somebody show up and describe what's going on with my project as common courtesy and public courtesy to the commission. That's just mine, but I don't have a project, so.
Thank you, Mark. I appreciate everybody's comments. I think they're right on. I think they're spot on. And I think that as we move forward, I've learned so much by seeing Sean come to every meeting. There's a trust that is built through consistency. And just knowing that you are here and committed to this by your presence speaks volumes. The next time, if Sean were to come before us, we would say, oh yeah, we like him. you know, he's a man of his word, and when he says he's gonna be there, he's there, so. Yeah, and I appreciate the sentiment of let's not put our staff people in harm's way. You know, that's not a good look, as Brad said. Any other questions for Mark?
I have
Mr.
one,
Doty?
since it's here. I was gonna wait for comments, but since you're up there, Mark, Mr. Genke proposed a new urban renewal area. Mr. Waterman was here. The talk was maybe that we couldn't get that done by, this year. But I wanna make sure it's still on the radar so that it is ready to go as soon as we can possibly do it January 1. So I don't wanna wait till January 1 to kick it off. And I think he was gonna work up all the stuff that was required. Again, this would be great to have that project, because who's responsible for what? So if he needs something, or Steve, you need something, or Raylan, you need something, we gotta have someone in charge of it so that we're ready to go as close to January 1 versus us getting to January 1 and go, oh yeah, remember that project we all kind of shook our heads up and down on? We'd like to see that, and now you're starting, and now we're 3 months behind. So if we can make sure the work is being done, or whatever's needed by whoever needs it, that we're getting that done so that that can kick off fairly quickly in the new year.
Thank you.
And I think that exposes some of the problem is we don't know who needs what, where, and who's responsible for getting all of that information to who.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
Not to ask the same question twice, but Mr. Waterman was here. So Mr. Genke asked for, and was kind of given a verbal commitment for $175,000 in expenses. Tell us what has been done since that last meeting about making that project into a URA spot-on project. What's been done? What's been communicated?
Yeah, my apologies, I know that Mr. Waterman was talking about it, that we needed to have the agents, we need a project area set up. And so I don't know if it was delineated exactly where that was going to be. We would need a feasibility study. We would need to have a project list. We'd have to have cost estimates. But I don't know where that's at.
So let me ask this, Mr. Chairman, because this is what irritates me. Nothing's been done, and it's been 30 days. So what is going to be done? What can be done? Because we got a developer, and he's got his money up on the counter, and he's trying to get going. So what are we going to do here tonight? What are we going to say? What are we going to commit to?
Chairman, Commissioner Moore, great question. I took, Chairman Porter and I met with Lee Genke after that meeting and talked a little bit more about what he was looking to do at that project. The latest status update that I have is that there was an environmental geotech study done on the property that came back a little concerning. And the ball is in his court as to if he's moving forward with the project. And I think the viability of the project is still in question. So staff has been standing by as an effort to help him mitigate those issues, but we wanted to bring something back a little more fleshed out as opposed to the uncertainty that we have today.
So was that communicated to Mr. Hilty's office?
I don't
About
believe
that
so.
about that environmental?
I do not believe so.
Okay. So let me just say this. This is where I want to pull my hair out. We're going 30 days here and nothing's been done. And I don't think that's fair to a developer. I don't think that's fair to all of us. We need to have, Mr. Waterman was sitting right there, and there's no communication.
It's a valid point. That was also my point. So the next step, it sounds like sitting right here today, is you're waiting on Mr. Genke to get a report back to someone. Who? Who needs the report from Mr. Genke, and what does he need to provide? And this is the issue, is who's communicating with him to let him know they need that information? And it sounds like nobody. We're just waiting on him to get back. Well, if he doesn't know, he needs to get it back, and maybe he does, Steve. But it sounds like we're waiting on him, and it may be done, it may not be done, but the key is none of us know. And I think that's troubling versus saying, yes, we sent an email to Mr. Genke and he has not responded. Here's the email that we sent. Once again, maybe that program will help with that. So we're not pointing fingers at each other, like who sent the email to who and where. And it'd be interesting to know if that's his understanding, if he's waiting on us or we're waiting on him, right? So,
Mr. Chair.
Ms. Wolf.
And I think that might be a good thing for us to try to establish at that point in time, when he comes and makes a presentation before us, before he gets out of here, maybe we both need to know what the next step is and who's taking it. You know, if he knows he's got to do some kind of environmental study on that to know if he can even proceed with this project, I guess he should tell us that. And if he doesn't know it at the time, you know, he doesn't know it at the time. But I think we should, both parties should leave here knowing what the next step is. You know, is are you going to lead? Am I going to lead? Who's going to lead? So that everybody is on the same page and nobody's wondering what's going on with that thing.
I think that's kind of where we rely on Mr. Waterman to go back to the office and communicate what's going on.
Yeah, and it's also incumbent on us as a commission too. We need to send Mr. Waterman out with specific instructions and action steps, as Julie
Right.
Julie said, so everybody's clear and it's reflected in our minutes. And we have probably, as a body, been deficient in that. We can do better at that, you know, for the sake of developers like Lee and what they're trying to get done. So we need to be very clear in the directions that we send and the message that goes to the developer, both to, you know, Mr. Hilty's office, that we're all clear up here and that we move forward at the same pace. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Oh, Mr. Cole, yes.
So, what do we know of, what did Mr. Ginky think his responsibility was in all of this, as far as getting back to us or getting back to staff? I mean, doesn't he have some type of responsibility here too?
sure. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Sure, but where does that go? Where do we, when he leaves there, what do we tell him? He needs to follow up in 10 days with who? Or 5 days? What is that?
Yeah.
If it was my project, I think I would want to find out what do I need to do next to get this thing moving. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Yeah, he may, you know,
Right.
he may be not aware of what he's supposed to do next. If he's not aware of what he's supposed to do next, then who does he ask, you know, where does he go for that? But, you know, it's difficult tonight, I think, discussing this when we don't know what Mr. Genke thought about what his next responsibility was.
And again, that's where clarity on our part is going to be essential, and we need to hold one another accountable to that. Julie, did you have another comment? That takes us to commissioner reports. Anything else, Mr. D?
I think I'm done
Okay.
for tonight.
And Julie?
Good.
Zach?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Tom? Chris?
Oh, I'm good, thank you.
David?
Lions picked up a whole bunch of trash down here in the plaza, and they did a great job, and I supervised, and we had a good time, so.
Are
Yeah.
you feeling better these days?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, great. Very good. No report from the chair, and so we will entertain a motion for adjournment. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor? We're out of here. Thanks, everybody.